Women and children, the elderly, wounded civilians, people with disabilities are trying to escape cities where there's no heat, no electricity, relentless bombardment, and where they're running out of food and medicine. And there continue to be reports of attacks by Russian forces on agreed-upon humanitarian corridors. Now, Russia is starving out cities like Mariupol. It's shameful. The world is saying to Russia, stop these attacks immediately. Let the food and medicine in. Let the people out safely and end this war of choice against Ukraine. Just within the last couple of weeks, President Biden created the authority to provide an additional $350 million in defense support to Ukraine. And within a week, most of that, about 70%, is already in the hands of Ukrainians, being used very effectively against the Russian aggression.
Our goal right now is to actually stop the war. We don't want to expand this conflict beyond Ukraine. And so right now, the signal from NATO collectively is that NATO is not prepared to move forward with a no-fly zone.
You say in your book it's time for the party to move on from Trump. Liz Cheney has said he is not fit to serve and should not be ever near the Oval Office again. Do you agree with that?
Well, I certainly have made it clear I don't think he should be our nominee, and I'm going to, support somebody else for the nomination.
But if he is the nominee and you have your choice is Donald Trump or whoever's running on the Democratic side, would you vote for him?
Because I believe that the greatest threat to the country is the progressive agenda being pushed by the Democratic Party. It's inconceivable to me that I wouldn't vote for the Republican nominee.
So even if he lied about the election and threatened democracy, as you write in your book, it's better than a Democrat.
It's hard to project what the facts are going to turn out to be 3 years hence, but as of now, it's hard for me to conceive that I wouldn't vote for the Republican nominee.
This year, our Department of Transportation will make available nearly $1.5 billion, yes, Administrator Regan, with a B, in grants to help cities and towns electrify their fleet of public buses, build infrastructure to support their fleet, and train workers to run it.
The clearest signal Congress can send to Vladimir Putin this week is passing a bipartisan aid package, leaving no doubt that the democratic nations of the world stand with Ukraine and against Putin's deeply immoral and bloody war. I also spoke with the administration yesterday and was told they are looking closely at imposing a ban on oil.
There is some suspicion the administration is desperate for any excuse to ease sanctions on Iranian oil exports to help blunt the impact of the European crisis on America's pocketbooks. This White House seems determined to go hat in hand and beg every bad actor around the world to ramp up their own fossil fuel production, but still will not stop their holy war against our own American energy production here at home.
Is the supply of oil so important that it's acceptable to cut deals in some cases with countries that may have engaged in unsavory actions in the past?
Well, first, I think it's important to take each of those engagements separately, because there are a range of issues that are important in each of those relationships. Oh, and Iran, the most vital reason, the most important reason why we are focused and have been focused on having these discussions with the Iranians and our P5+1 partners is to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. That is why we're in these negotiations. We are getting closer. There are still important components to work through, but certainly the discussion of oil is a part of that, but the most important reason is to prevent them from acquiring a nuclear weapon. So I would just note, and I went through all of those purposefully, obviously, because these are all geopolitical issues that have a range of topics that are a part of the discussion in our engagements.
Following up on that, Axios reported this morning that the president's, there's a deliberation here at least, that the president might go to Saudi Arabia. Can you confirm those deliberations and perhaps provide a little more insight into what's being discussed here?
There's no current plans for the president to travel to Saudi Arabia.
And then last, Florida Surgeon General says that healthy children shouldn't get the COVID vaccine. Is that a good policy?
Absolutely not. So it's deeply disturbing that there are politicians peddling conspiracy theories out there and casting doubt on vaccinations when it is our best tool against the virus and the best tool to prevent even teenagers from being hospitalized. Go ahead.
Secretary Austin ordered the deployment from the United States of an additional approximately 500 U.S. military personnel to locations in Europe to augment U.S. forces that are already in theater. These additional personnel are being positioned to respond, obviously, to the current security environment caused by Russia's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine.
I think it is important that we discussed Brittney Griner with the President of the United States. I think it is important that we leave the details of our discussion for the administration to continue its concerns and express its concerns in the way that is best. And that was what was represented to us. We know about Brittney Griner, and we know that we have to move on her situation. She is in a circumstance that would generate a 10-year sentence. Many of us believe that this is unwarranted, but the best news we got today was that they know about it and that she is on the agenda, and that agenda we have trust in that they will continue to work through this process.
I think it's a parallel track. You will find with Black Americans, we're not single focused. Just as 57 years ago, just as in 1965, members then were coming to the White House, but they were still dealing with food and hunger and our children. And so we're on the same track. We will not settle for less than voting rights, nor will we for policing and crime.